Investigations begin into lynching of army officer in Dentra, Obuasi.
Somanya police makes arrests in connection with Monday's disturbances. Good evening, welcome to GBC24 and Ghana Television. This is News Hour with Thelmataki and
Emmanuel Amagashi. Robert Frimpoman will be our interpreter tonight.
Our first story: investigations into the death of a military officer, Captain Maxwell Mahama, who was allegedly lynched by an angry mob in Dentra, Obuasi in the central region, have begun.
Our central regional correspondent told us earlier today that over 100 men and women in the community have been rounded up. They will be screened by a fact-finding team of the Ghana Armed Forces deployed to the area as part of the investigations. And the body of the late Captain Maxwell Mahama has been flown to the 37 military hospital. And still on this story, President Akufo-Addo has expressed condolences to the family of Captain Maxwell Adam Mahama on the tragic loss of their son. In a Facebook post, the president assured the family that the perpetrators of the heinous crime will be arrested and dealt with in accordance with the laws of the country. He wrote, quote, "No one involved in this murder will go free," unquote. Captain Mahama was brutalized and burned to death by a mob which claimed it mistook him for an armed robber when he went out jogging at Dentra, Obuasi in the central region. And still on this story, a delegation led by the Chief of Defense Staff of the Ghana Armed Forces, Lieutenant General O.B. Akwa, visited the family of the late Captain Maxwell Mahama to commiserate with them.
The purpose of the visit was to mourn and share in the grief of the bereaved family about the gruesome killing of their beloved. The CDS expressed its heartfelt condolence to the family and assured them that the perpetrators will be brought to justice.
I want to give this assurance to the wife, the children, the father, colleagues, that we are taking this matter very, very serious. I have been in touch with the Minister for Defense. He has briefed the President and our Commander-in-Chief of New Development. We have dispatched a higher-powered delegation led by the Chief of the Army Staff, the GOC Southern Command, the CO 2BN, and police commanders in the regions, BNI, our Defense Intelligence, CID, and everybody whose input will help to resolve this problem. Not in terms of bringing him back, but to get the perpetrators of this crime.
He also pleaded with the family to exercise restraint during these difficult times, since the security service will do everything possible to support the bereaved family.
The police in Somanya have arrested some persons in connection with yesterday's disturbances in the area. What started as a public call for reduction in electricity tariffs later escalated when some irate youth of the area vandalized the police station and burned the only police patrol vehicle.
At a media briefing, the Eastern Regional Police Commander ACP George Mensah said the issue began over 6 months ago when residents started complaining of high electricity tariffs. Last Thursday, the assembly member of Sawe electoral area, Mr. Jones Tete, together with some opinion leaders, visited the ECG offices hoping to get some response, but they claim they were forced out of the ECG offices by the security personnel. Some residents who were not happy with the development stormed the ECG offices and destroyed some property. The police later arrested the assembly member of Sawe, Mr. Jones Tete.
The police moved in to protect the ECG and they turned their attention on the police. And this is what they've done. Burning a police car, the only police car that we have in this district, and then causing damage to the charge office, and tried to break open the cells. They have freed is it 4 or 6 suspects? 4 suspects, 2 on remand and 2 who are just being processed to appear before court.
The Member of Parliament for Yilo Krobo constituency, Mr. Magnus Kofi Amwate, called for calm.
I'm appealing to my people. Let us exercise restraint. The law is the law, and we must have law enforcement. Nobody is above the laws of Ghana, even His Excellency the President. So that if an individual falls foul of the law will deal with him.
On this story, the Member of Parliament for Yilo Krobo, Mr. Magnus Kofi Amwate, has condemned the disturbances by sections of the youth in the community and called for calm.
People were angry that the electricity tariffs are high, and he got them to come along with him. So even when he shouted, when he even gave a war cry, the people were ready to stand up and fight for him. And that's what happened yesterday. And I thought, having advised the police that they should not effect arrest, they were going to take that position and give time for us to dialogue. Both demonstrations, that of last Friday, at which the Electricity Company of Ghana's offices were vandalized, I condemn it in its entirety. Even though the people have a case complaining about high electricity tariffs, we have a case. The people have a case. But the fact that we have a case doesn't mean that we should take the law into our own hands and destroy state property. Equally, the burning down of a police vehicle yesterday and the vandalizing of the police station is equally unacceptable and must be condemned by everybody.
The alleged murderer of the Ibuakwa North MP, Daniel Isiedu, was discharged today, has been re-arrested. Isiedu, together with Vincent Busso, were discharged after the Attorney General filed a case to terminate proceedings. The Senior State Attorney, Sefa Kobache, said in pursuant to Section 54 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act, they have discontinued the case. Defense Counsel Moniru Kasim said they have no objection since the Attorney General has the power to continue the case. The court, presided over by Justice Lawrence Lazagla Mensah, subsequently discharged the accused persons. Meanwhile, there are indications that they may be back in court very shortly.
You're watching News Hour live on GBC24 and Ghana Television. An ECOWAS forum on regional integration took place in Accra today. The President, Nana Akufo-Addo, told the meeting regional integration is practicable. President Akufo-Addo said regional integration has not been achieved due to lack of political will, but the situation can be turned around if political leaders in the sub-region are committed.
The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, was established in 1975 to boost inter-regional commerce and cooperation, with a clear recognition that the countries of West Africa would be a more effective economic bloc and have a stronger political voice if they came together. But after 42 years of existence, the ECOWAS bloc is yet to realize its full potential as an integrated commerce and cooperation bloc. This is the main focus of the Regional Integration Issues Forum. The platform facilitates facilitates purposeful interface between policymakers and non-state actors of regional integration processes through dialogue and meetings that create awareness about regional integration. It also seeks to build knowledge on the benefits of regional integration for national development and promote public deliberation on national implementation process or regional integration policies. This year's forum was to commemorate the 42nd anniversary of ECOWAS under the theme Bringing West Africa Integration Home for National Development. A former chairman of the ECOWAS Commission, Ambassador Victor Gbeho, said it is time for West African leaders to remove all bottlenecks that militate against the growth of regional integration.
6 decades after independence, we're still chasing unity and economic integration. It is particularly the latter that has brought us together today to look at the history of our endeavor to establish economic integration on our continent, particularly in this region of ours. Yes, there has been some progress, but I believe that the consensus is that it's not as fast as it could have been.
The Executive Director of the Center for Regional Integration in Africa, Professor SKB Asante, suggested that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration be split into two.
The merged ministry does not play any appreciable role in mainstreaming decisions and programs of ECOWAS or African Union into Ghana's national plans and strategies for the benefit of the country. Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for action.
President Akufo-Addo urged his counterparts in the ECOWAS bloc to demonstrate political commitment towards the sub-regional integration.
While the EU is central to the lives of Europeans, ECOWAS is somewhat peripheral to the lives of most West Africans. And it is not for the lack of plans or even rules and regulation. It is simply that the political will to make integration real has been less evident than in Europe. Our problem over the years, I suggest, has been leadership. The implementation of these plans has been left to well-meaning technocrats and bureaucrats. However well-meaning they may be, our region cannot make the bold transforming changes it needs to make without visionary political leadership. We need leadership that is focused on the region and not on individual countries. The European Union took off because of the political leadership of France and Germany decided to make it work. Once the political will is evident, we can then work together to make ECOWAS a true regional market.
The two-day forum will deliberate on how countries in the sub-region can play critical roles in scaling up the idea of regional integration.
President Akufo-Addo is in Niger, where he is holding bilateral talks with his Nigerian counterpart, President Mahamudu Issoufou.
Upon the assumption of office as the president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo committed himself to strengthening bilateral relations with Ghana's West African neighbors. This is why the president started his West African tour, which saw him visiting Togo, Burkina Faso and Cote d'Ivoire. The second phase took him to Senegal, Cape Verde and Guinea. Liberia was the last country President Akufo-Addo visited. Niger is the latest country President Akufo-Addo is traveling to, with the aim of deepening Ghana's bilateral relations and reiterating his administration's full commitment to the ideals of the Economic Community of West African States. He will also meet with the Ghanaian community in Niamey on the various policies of his administration and how they will help better the lot of people back home. President Akufo-Addo is expected to return to Accra late Tuesday night.
We now have on the line the Divisional Commander of Upper Dentra, Dela Jansi, to give us updates on what is happening at the moment at Dentra Boase about the death of Captain Maxwell Mahama. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good. How is the security situation on the ground currently as we speak?
Can you come again?
I'm asking, what is the security situation presently as we speak?
Oh, for now the place is calm. The Jabati is very calm now.
Okay. All right. So, how many suspects have been picked up?
So far, we have 5 suspects that have been picked up so far. We are making an effort to get some others in addition.
Okay. Tell us, please, what is the mood in town at Upper Dentra?
For now, only few people are in town. Because of the heinous crime they committed, most of them have abandoned the town even before the arrival of the police. So for now, after the time police was leaving, we can't get about 150 people in the town.
Okay. Now, has the police begun investigations into this heinous crime?
Yes, seriously. As a matter of fact, the regional command has taken over the investigations, and we are only doing co-investigators, helping them to get suspects and also aid them in the necessary information that they needed to do the investigation.
Good. So how are you cooperating and working hand in hand with the military to unravel this mystery?
Well, the military also came to the ground to really help the police maintain order at the place, and so far we are cooperating. That's how I could say it.
Okay, all right. Do you have any other thing to add before we part company?
Yes, all I can say is that the people who committed the offense know themselves, and they know that the police are aware of their names and their identity, just that we have not seen them. So it will be very good on their part for them to report themselves to the police to ease matters. So far, that is the only advice. And I also advise the citizens of the Jabati to just remain calm while police conduct the necessary investigation.
Okay, thank you. So that's the divisional commander of the Upper Dentra community, Dela Jansi, giving us updates as to developments at the town presently. The news continues here live on GBC24 and Ghana Television. The Minority Caucus in Parliament have condemned the murder of Captain Maxwell Mahama by some residents of Dentra in the central region. While urging government to bring the captain's killers to book, they also appealed to the military high command and the Ghana Armed Forces to exercise restraint as the issue is being dealt with. They further commiserated with the bereaved family on their loss. Captain Maxwell Mahama was the head of the military detachment fighting illegal mining, which is Galamsey, but was mistaken for an armed robber and lynched to death. Now, still to come.
Good evening, my name is Morris Ugbete. We do business brought to you by NIB and Ernest Chemist. The World Bank is urging a continuation of unemployment freeze implemented in the last 2 years if modest gains made so far are to be maintained. In a public expenditure survey, the bank noted that the wage bill and interest payment remain the 2 largest government expenditure items. A switch to the single spine salary structure in 2011 skyrocketed the level of public sector wages.
Employment freeze, limited annual wage increases, and eliminating payroll irregularities are among a raft of recommendations contained in the World Bank Public Expenditure Survey to be discussed in the next couple of days. The report assesses the options for improving the effectiveness of public spending and expanding the available fiscal space for capital investment. After an extended period of robust growth since the early 2000s, Ghana's economic conditions deteriorated since 2012, largely to a drop in commodity prices, the attainment of a lower middle income status, and a general slowdown in global economy. Ghana's wage bill amounted to 44.2% of tax revenue in 2015, though the figure is trending downwards It remains well above ECOWAS convergence criteria of 35%, the report noted. While expenditure has increased rapidly, revenue remains unchanged relative to GDP.
On the expenditure side, controlling current expenditures, especially spending on the wage bill and debt service, which are government's two largest expenditure items, will be essential for the success and sustainability of fiscal adjustment. The wage bill in particular will be an important determinant of Ghana's fiscal balance in the medium term, since public sector spending remains the largest, the public sector rather remains the largest employer in the country. This in itself poses a major challenge because in other countries, comparator countries, the private sector is by far the largest formal employer.
A Deputy Minister for Finance, Mr. Kukukwateng, emphasized government resolve to focus more on the private sector to ease pressure on public sector employment.
We don't need anybody to tell us that if you look at our expenditure structure and revenue mobilization, nobody will tell you that you need to do something about that. The economists call it fiscal consolidation. And the difficult question we sought to answer with the 2017 budget statement was, how do you, on the one hand, do fiscal consolidation? So you're going to have to spend very little so that you bridge the gap and you deal with liabilities of the past. How do you do that? Whilst at the same time, you need to bring relief to your private sector and to prepare them to expand the economy and to push growth.
The bank projects that the short to medium term outlook on Ghana's economy is bright, and these are largely due to the enormous potential of new oil fields, particularly the 10 fields.
And still in business, 42 state-owned enterprises have signed performance contract for this year. Minister for Monitoring and Evaluation, Dr. Anthony Akoto, says, however, concerned about the fact that some chief executives of state-owned enterprises are not enthused about target they have set for themselves.
End of 2015, 28 out of the over 40 state-owned enterprises employed over 32,500 people. They also generated total revenue of 16.2 billion Ghana cedis. However, the performance of most of these state enterprises had not been up to expectation, hence the introduction of performance contract. It is over a decade now since the performance contract was introduced, but government says this is yet to be translated into results. The Minister for Monitoring and Evaluation, Dr. Anthony Akoto, was not happy about the fact that the performance contract has just been reduced to a ceremony because most of the chief executives of the SOEs are not abreast with their targets.
We keep pretending they are monitoring the performance, and the SOEs keep pretending they are complying with the laws, because they are not. If they were, why are they in the state that they are in now? Something is clearly wrong, and we need to confront it. We cannot continue to do this pretense of signing a performance agreement. Some of the chairpersons of the SOEs don't even know what is in the performance agreement. It hasn't been shown to them. So why are we asking them to sign something that they have not read?
The chief executive of the State Enterprise Commission, Mr. Samuel Boateng, said SEC is going to undergo transformation with the set-up of a centralized, digitized transformation network.
The new SEC will also be coming up with a model inter-SOE trading arrangement that will be backed by law, so as to maximize your operational and financial opportunities. There are also plans by Government of Ghana and its development partners to transform the SOE sector with the enactment of a single entity enterprise to consolidate Government of Ghana's ownership and supervisory role.
The Vice President, Muhammadu Bawumia, charged all state-owned enterprises to be result-oriented and strive to compete with the private sector.
The current state of our SOEs indeed calls for bold and swift reforms if we are to position them to work effectively with the private sector to create jobs and to lay a new foundation for growth. His Excellency the President is also going to hold along with the economic management team, a half-yearly meeting with the state-owned enterprise so that we can review what is going on half-yearly. We'll look at the financial reports, we'll look at the projects, the activities that are taking place, and the issues that you are facing.
The Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, Mr. Paul Asariansa, said although state-owned enterprises are ill-resourced, it is mandatory for all set targets set for the year to be met. He called on all SOEs to set realistic targets that can be achieved.
Let's go to the interbank market where the dollar is trading at 4 cedis 30 pesos, the pound going for 5 cedis 52 pesos, and the euro selling at 4 cedis 80 pesos. On the international commodities market, a barrel of oil is selling at $49, gold at $1,265, and an ounce, a ton of cocoa going for $2,031. And finally, before we go, the country's lawmakers are back to the House after a 2-month break. On the first day, members of the House were informed of the readjustment of sitting to enable contractors complete work on some portions of the roof of the chamber ripped off following a downpour in January this year.
This is the second meeting of the first session of the 7th Parliament of the Fourth Republic. Sitting began at 11:30 a.m. following some ongoing works on the floor of the chamber. It will be recalled that the chamber was among buildings hit hard by a downpour in the capital 3.5 months ago. China State Housing Construction is a company undertaking the re-roofing. Sitting hours has now been rescheduled from 12 noon to 2 p.m.
As our current chamber has reached its structural capacity to accommodate further expansion, it is deemed appropriate to have a new modern chamber with bigger capacity and facilities that will help Parliament discharge its mandate with dignity. The Parliamentary Service Board has given approval to the idea.
We don't yet have a technical committee as of now because some significant members are no longer with us. I'm also happy he said that for safety reasons, the Parliament will have to sit at specific periods of time so that the people can work on the roof. Mr. Speaker, may I know, since we don't have a technical committee, how the consultants and the contractors have been selected to work on the roof? Is it by sole sourcing?
Presenting the business statement for the week, the Majority Leader, Mr. Osei Mensah Bonsu, employed members of the House to bear with the structural changes.
Speaker, this House, the Parliamentary Service Board is responsible for this arrangement. It is not the chairman of the business committee. It is not the business committee.
The Minority Leader, Mr. Haruna Idrisu, urged members to be more responsive this season.
The composition of the technical committee to work on the standing committees, and I do the standing others committee, Mr. Speaker, we should support to bring closure to this matter. I note your personal determination to reform this House and this Parliament to be more responsive. We can only do so if we have an improved standing for this, which guides your own vision and the vision of the House. Therefore, we expect that the revised committee will begin work in earnest and bring this matter to closure so that the committees will be looked at much more thoroughly.
The Speaker of Parliament, Professor Michael Quay, appealed to the MPs to work hard despite the inconvenience to enable the House achieve its target set for the second session. Sitting resumes Wednesday, 12 noon.
We'll do some health news after this break. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Now to the health segment. The First Lady, Mrs. Rebecca Akufo-Addo, has launched an initiative to reduce malaria and malnutrition in the country. Ghana faces persistent nutrition challenges among children, as well as high prevalence of the mosquito-borne disease, and the First Lady believes the initiative will mitigate the negative impact of malnutrition and malaria, especially on children and pregnant women.
Malnutrition and malaria impact negatively on morbidity and mortality of vulnerable people. Pregnant women and children are at the receiving end. In Ghana, the northern, Upper East and Upper West regions record the highest cases of malaria and malnutrition. In 2015, Ghana recorded 10 million cases of malaria. A survey by the National Malaria Control Program in the same year showed that malaria contributed to 17.6% of outpatient department cases and 13.7% of admissions. In the 2016 annual report of the Ghana Health Service, malaria contributed 15.3% of all admissions. According to a doctor at the Family Health Division of the Ghana Health Service, Mr. Patrick Abwaje, eradicating malaria and malnutrition requires concerted effort from every Ghanaian, stakeholders and development partners.
A strong health system with opportunity for addressing nutrition and priorities are important. We want to ensure that ANC coverage and skill delivery are almost 80% by 2020, and that chief strategy that brings services to the community also carries nutrition not only to the under 5 but also to the elderly.
Malaria and malnutrition, though preventable, continue to affect almost all Ghanaians, and it has serious consequences on the health and survival of those affected. Leading the fight to eradicate malaria through the Infanta Malaria Foundation for the past 12 years, the First Lady, Mrs. Rebecca Akufo-Addo, says her team underscored the need to include malnutrition in the fight to reduce child morbidity and the mortality rate among pregnant women. Mrs. Rebecca Akufo-Addo therefore launched the Reducing Malaria and Malnutrition in Priority Populations Initiative, REMAP. The REMAP initiative aims at promoting coordination and integration of malaria and malnutrition interventions, private sector engagement, and resource mobilization
to invest in breastfeeding and child nutrition, thus ensuring that no Ghanaian child born today ends up severely malnourished and suffer the attendant consequences of compromised growth or death. I ask for the support of the community health nurses, disease control and surveillance officers, and all the clinical and public health leadership.
Presently, children in Africa are 10 times more likely to die before the age of 5 than children in developed countries. For GBC24, Ofeyiwa Dakon reporting.
1-year-old Eric Ahuja has begun the journey to recover his sight after he successfully underwent surgery at Dr. Agawal's Eye Hospital in Accra. Ophthalmologist and retinal surgeon Dr. Asiwome Seniaja said the surgery only makes up 30% of the required treatment. Eric was born with a complicated kind of cataract which made him blind. A report by Sarah Ofure.
The human eye is made of 10 general components that work together to make humans see well. One of them is the sclera, which is the white part of the eye. It provides strength, structure, and protection for the eye. The iris is also the colored part of the eye. The cornea is the outermost layer of the eye, and it controls the amount of light that comes into the eye, just like the pupil, which is the black circle in the center of the eye. The vitreous humor is a gel-like substance that helps to keep the eyeball in its proper circular shape. The retina, located at the back of the eye, receives refined visual messages from the front of the eye and transmits to the brain using electrical signals. The lens, which exists behind the pupil, is a transparent part of the eye that allows it to focus on small details. The lens is in a constant state of adjustment as it becomes thinner or thicker to accommodate the detailed inputs received. When the lens loses its transparency, then cataract may have set in, hence total blindness. Cataract affects both children and adults. A child is either born with it or develops it from childhood.
We were all born with a pair of eyes meant to give us vision, but that hasn't been the case for 1-year-old Eric Aruja. He was born diagnosed with Bill cataract, but today his story changes. Here at the Dr. Gawal's Eye Hospital in Accra, he is going to be given a new pair of lenses.
Having gone through the various tests to ensure his fitness for the surgery, Eric was put under anesthesia. Anesthetists, ophthalmic nurses, and surgeon were all poised for a successful surgery under the microscope.
It's not the usual cataract you will say.
Okay.
This is what we call lens split because it has formed what we call fibrosis.
Okay.
The capsule of the lens, both front and back, has fused together, so it's like a plate. This approach will be slightly different from the usual one.
Even though the surgery could easily be previewed, GBC24, Eric's mother, did not have the heart for that. As I stood by, I previewed the surgery on this monitor every step of the way. After about an hour and a half, the pair of lenses had been placed behind the pupil. At the recovery room, the obviously relieved mother, GBC24, was debriefed by Dr. Siwo Mesenaja.
Operation you won't come if I call me quite mark no fiti mark me data or an American cataract.
So we asked what the next step would be.
I always say the surgical part is 30%. What we used to do, which we will be doing for this child, is to do visual stimulation. The brain has not learned to see. You see, we use two things. Two things always help us in life. Your legs can move, but the brain must move the leg. The same way with the eye. The eye can see, but the brain might allow you to see. So we need to coordinate this now. This child has got definitely what we call amblyopia. The brain has neglected the eye. We do refraction, and when we do refraction, we give glasses. That's why you see tiny babies, 2 months, 3 months wearing glasses. Yes, this is the reason why.
Following a report by GBC24 about the plight of the 34-year-old mother of 4 whose 2 sons needed treatment for cataract, Dr. Agawal Eye Hospital in Accra offered to do the surgeries for free.
We try as much as possible to give the best lens for a child like this who is going to stay with the lens for many years. If she's going to stay for 80 years, that means the lens have put in here must stay for 80 years. And all the things that the lens will provide, like glare, anti-glare, UV filter, all that are incorporated, and it's not that cheap. I may not be able to really give you figures, but not less than 5,000.
17-year-old Samuel Ahuja, the eldest son, whose vision was impaired as a result of cataract, we are told had already had his surgery and is responding well to treatment. Cyril Furi, GBC24, Dr. Gawal Eye Hospital, Accra.
A very positive story indeed. We wish that family the very best. This is where we take a break. We'll be back with more stories. Stay with us.
Hello, good evening. Let's talk sports. I'm Theophilus Sampa. The Black Starlets this afternoon returned home from Gabon to a rousing welcome. They finished second at the just-ended Africa Under-17 Nations Tournament. These are members of the national Under-17 male football team, the Black Starlets. They finished second at the just-ended AFCON stage in Gabon. The team, after a good start in their first two group games, drew their third and won their semi-final clash through a penalty shootout. In the final, they lost to defending champions Mali by a goal to nil to pick silver. They are back home to prepare for the World Cup in India.
There was an opportunity for our young stars, Team Fresh, as they like to call themselves, to be recorded in the annals of history as being the first youngsters who would have been admitted to the National Sports Hall of Fame that is about opening at the Cape Coast Sports Stadium. But that opportunity is not lost. There is yet another major exercise ahead of us, that is the World Cup. That even offers us a bigger platform for you to market yourselves and for you to market your country. We are confident that we are going to improve on ourselves, and that going forward we shall continue to do ourselves and our nations proud.
I never expected this crowd here. We are so grateful for your support. We hope to do well the next time.
Individually, many of them were really good, and then as a team, they played tactically well. So it's up to the coach to sit down and analyze the whole games and look at where there were lapses and make sure that he puts things together.
The four semi-finalists, Mali, Ghana, Guinea and Niger, represent Africa in the World Under-17 Championship to be staged in India in October 2017. Going to France to talk tennis, where defending champion Novak Djokovic and 9-time winner Rafael Nadal both advanced to the second round of the men's singles at the 2017 French Open on Monday. Here's a recap of the action. And in Spain, Barcelona have appointed Ernesto Valverde as their head coach on a 2-year deal with an option for a third. The former Catalan Valverde announced last week that he was leaving Athletic Bilbao after managing the team for 4 years. That's all for sports. Award-winning Ghanaian actor Ajete Anand came into the limelight during the popular television series Things We Do for Love, popularly known as Pusha. Ajete says his years in the movie industry have been amazing. He believes there are more untapped talents out there who should be given the platform to promote the industry.
Done well, but there's still things that are drawing us back, and mostly it's not even about the technical side. I know that we're still have some way to go as far as special effects, etc. is concerned, but of course in terms of investment in equipment, modern equipments, you can see that there are area of them in with our production houses. But for me, it's the human aspect which I'm more concerned, and I think that we have rather gone back behind in terms of our discipline as artists, in terms of the skill that we should bring on board. It's not enough, as I always say, that talent, we can all have talent, but the skill and training that places us above the other is what we need. A sequel coming up, and then a couple of series, Heels and Sneakers, Eva Nelson's, and then the other one which is more like a crime detective, and so these are the few that are coming up.
He said his vision is to create an acting institution so that
Ridomel Gold Plus. Spraying technique. Spray your cocoa pods with Ridomel Gold Plus to protect your harvest from black pod. To get a good harvest, you should use Ridomel Gold Plus every 4 weeks from the start of the rainy season until September. The best time to spray Ridomel Gold Plus is early in the morning before 11 a.m. Later in the day, the change in wind direction may blow the Ridomel Gold Plus away from the pods and pollute the person spraying. Spray the Ridomel Gold Plus onto the cocoa pods. Spray each pod from the top of the tree to the bottom of the tree. When you have sprayed all the pods on the tree, move on to the next tree until you have sprayed all the trees on your farm. Remember to use 150-gram sachet of Ridomel Gold Plus per each tankful of water and 6 50-gram sachet of Ridomel Gold Plus for every acre of your cocoa farm.
Keep watching the weather reports and I'll see you same time right here only on GTV.
Thank you, and that's how we wrap up this bulletin of news. Join us again at 10 for the late edition. Until then, enjoy the rest of your evening.